to District Life. I'm Larry Brown Jr.
And I'm Sharifa Gregory. We're starting off today's show with a look at a program that's guiding students with disabilities through the basics of music production.
Here's what it sounds like when young people are given a chance to make their own musical creations with equipment and guidance.
My name is Conscious, the MC, independent hip-hop artist from Washington, D.C., and today we are at Gorilla Arts, Inc. Studios in conjunction with School Talk D.C. to conduct a music production workshop with some amazing youth, a crash course from A to Z, and song creation, studio etiquette, and producing material that the community can appreciate, that is positive and uplifting, and also encourages these youth with disabilities to share their voice and to share their stories.
DC students with disabilities in particular get kind of pushed into some very specific career paths that some of them might be interested in pursuing, but some of them aren't. And so through this program, we're also trying to really give them access to careers in production, in music, in photography, and because there's so many of those jobs and they're much higher paid jobs than a lot of what these students would typically get pushed into.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
they're not interested in even doing
and they're available in DC
right,
too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of availability of creative careers.
I graduated from Anacostia Senior High School. I went to various programs as a youth too, to get to the point where I'm now as a full-time employee at School Talk, where I do teach photography and videography and advocacy at multiple DC public schools. It's turned out to be a very good team. It's kind of like a little power team we have going on here today.
They came today to Asheru's studio and they got hands-on equipment and got to start putting their pieces together. We had a student who does beats and produces. We had another one who was working with Asheru on the DJ equipment, and then we had 3 young women who were writing lyrics and recording. So I'm wondering if anybody would be willing to share why you think access to art is important for youth with disabilities.
I could say music saved my life almost, for real, because I went through a lot of hard times as a kid. So it was like me trying to grow up and be in this environment but have no access to do the things I want to do.
People with disabilities, in a sense, they're kind of put on the back burner. They're not exactly put on the spotlight because they're not exactly looked as normal.
A lot of people are confused because they don't know what autism is, or because it's like if I tell them that I do have it, they probably won't believe me at first because they will compare me to somebody else who has it, who fits more of the stereotype. It can come with disadvantages, but it comes with advantages too. For example, I had to take speech classes when I was younger, not because I couldn't speak, I could speak fine, but I couldn't have actual conversations with people. I would just be repeating the same phrases, but music was a way for me to communicate with people. The arts in general is a way for me to communicate with people, communicate how I'm feeling, and it was something I was actually good at.
It makes you feel emotional and excitement. It was good. It was the first time for me for collaborate with everybody that was singing a song, to record it. I was doing the poetry. Yeah, that was the first time for me.
I never had got my hands on a controller or a CDJ until now. So the feeling is amazing.
When I came in here, it was just it felt really free. I got to sing and just record my part and do harmonies and stuff.
A celebration of our history.
Oh my God, yes.
You gotta figure out the transition.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have that song stuck in my head all day now. I wish I could carry a tune. Shoot. Larry, can you sing?
I can carry a tune or two.
Oh.
Ask my wife, she would say no, so put me on the background.
Okay, all right.
Listen, speaking of musical programs, we'll take a closer look in our next segment at the Washington Jazz Arts Institute, led by a DC music legend.
We became a nonprofit organization in 1998 to create a support system from the time a young person decided that they wanted to be an artist throughout their career and through retirement, in hopes that they would take all of the experience that they gain and give it back to the next generation through the Washington Jazz Arts Institute. We teach music through the venue of jazz because jazz incorporates all of the elements of music. And we provide employment for youth in the summer so that they don't have to decide to either work or practice. We give them, our services are free to our clients. We want to make sure, if we can, provide young people who don't have instruments that they can take home and practice while they're developed. And also, if the families cannot afford to get them instruments before they go to college, then we try to let them own the instruments that we had loaned them during their time at the Washington Jazz Arts Institute.
You know, I get to be the person who was sitting there being kind of scared and afraid, trying to get through the rhythm changes back when I was 14 years old. And now I get to do that to somebody else and make sure that they maybe don't go through all the same pitfalls that I did. So I get to pass that knowledge, that gratitude, that what comes from being in the Institute, being surrounded by so many masters. I get to pass that along, what was given to me.
WJAI has a very positive impact on everybody who's in it because they give you a chance to learn new instruments. Like for me, I learned how to play the flute at the WJAI. Mr. Yarborough is very kind and he understands how to work through any difficulties that you may be running into. He understands basically everything you could possibly ask him about jazz. Like he can answer any of your questions. And he's very thoughtful about how he does things. And he also plays like a billion instruments, so that also helps.
Students from the Washington Jazz Arts Institute had played at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and at the Kennedy Center.
Which makes me wonder whether the gentleman featured in our next segment has listened to them play. After all, he's worked as an usher at the Kennedy Center for 5 decades.
Hi, I'm Randy Howes, the head usher of the Terrace Theater here at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. I came here over 40 years ago. I became the head usher of the Terrace Theater a couple of years later, and am now currently the longest serving head usher here at the Kennedy Center. I often think, how did a kid from a small town in northern Maine end up here at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, the National Performing Arts Center for the whole country? I often have to just pinch myself to say, how did I do it? How did I end up here? You walk through those doors and you see the soaring ceilings and you see the flags and you just, the red carpet, the posters. I feel like I'm really a part of something very special. The Kennedy Center literally changed life in Washington, D.C. Prior to the Kennedy Center, we had very few options. We had Constitution Hall and the National Theater, and now about 5 years ago, the crown jewel was looking a little tattered, and we got some money and they rebuilt it. I mean, it was amazing. They literally tore out the old theater and built a beautiful new theater. It's different. It's still the Terrace Theater, but there are so many memories from the old theater that I'll never forget that part of it. One of the fun memories from the Terrace Theater is Debbie Allen always brought children's shows here. We would bring in busloads of kids, and she would take a children's book and create a musical. Well, she did one called Pepito's Story, and it was a huge hit. The kids loved it, the adults loved it. There are many, many memories of shows here at the Opera House in the Eisenhower. I remember seeing Annie in the original before it even went to Broadway. Same thing with here in the Opera House. They did Les Mis before it went to Broadway. So it just felt I felt so fortunate to be a part of shows like that. And just recently, as part of the 50th anniversary, we did 50 years of Broadway at the Kennedy Center here at the Opera House. Probably the first really big show post-pandemic. It was an exciting evening. It was so much fun. What I'm looking forward to most with our 50th anniversary celebration is in September, October, I'm not sure exact dates, they will recreate Mass that Leonard Bernstein wrote for the opening of the Kennedy Center. Our Washington Opera director, Francesca Zambella, will be directing it, and she has such a wonderful way of redirecting old things. So I'm anxious to see that. That should be a lot of fun. Yes, it's been quite an experience. I feel very privileged to be a part of this organization, a small part, but I think I have given a lot of my life to this, but they have given me so much more in return.
Now, while I pay for tickets to these shows, Randy gets paid to watch, all in a classy red uniform.
Cities usually aren't known for their green spaces. As a result, many city folk grow up without a lot of access to quality food choices, as well as a lack of resources to truly understand how sustainable gardening works. We plant this next story in hopes that you will grow your own gardening knowledge and perhaps even grow your own garden.
The whole mission of City Blossoms is to create equitable and accessible green space, but also the well-being of our communities. So through establishing these urban gardens in schools, in neighborhoods, early childhood centers, we're providing a space for the community and the participants to put their stamp on their gardens and really make it their own. City Blossoms provides both free resources, such as activity guides. We also provide a lot of resources directly to our partners that are also included in these partnerships. So we provide cooking boxes that can be used actually in the garden, as well as mini libraries. A big part of our work is sustainability. So not only the natural part of things and sustainability in the gardens, but also sustainability in our programs. So what we do is when we form a partnership, we work very closely with the educators to provide tailored coaching sessions. So each coaching session goes over a different topic so that the educators can feel confident and comfortable actually leading the programming at their sites.
City Blossoms is a good platform. They have a good program that offers teachers like us to reach out to kids on the understanding of the importance of gardening. The coach here at City Blossoms, they are so warm. First they will ask us what we really need. Most of our topics in the classroom really are touching the garden theme. Basically, most kids here in the city, they don't know where their food is coming from. Most of the kids we have in the classroom will say, I get my corn from the grocery store. It comes in a box. So it's really nice for them to see in actuality where these foods are coming from.
The people who are working on it are all in DC, and they're all bringing their cultures and their languages and parts of themselves into those spaces. Our programming is very oriented towards celebrating and expressing all of those unique elements of each neighborhood.
We all remember 9/11, 2001. Just days after the attacks, former Virginia delegate David Brickley was at a conference, and what came out of those meetings was a way to remember 9/11 over the course of 1,300 miles. David, thanks so much for joining us here on District Life.
Great to be here, thanks.
Thank you. So congratulations. In October, President Joe Biden signed a bill into law that federally designates the 9/11 Memorial Trail. Tell me about the work that the National Memorial Alliance, the nonprofit, did leading up to this moment prior to the trail being signed, the designation, pardon me.
Well, we've been working in partnership with our friends all over the country, including congressmen. And it started back in 2002. The goal was to have a 1,300-mile trail connecting the 3 9/11 sites at the Pentagon Memorial now, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the World Trade Center in New York. And with everybody working together, it took a long time, but we finally got the bill. Congressman Jerry Connolly was chief sponsor, and President Biden could not have been more gracious in getting it signed.
You served the Virginia House of Delegates for 22 years, and environmental policy as well as conservation were high up on your agenda. Talk about why outdoors is so important and why it's such a valuable place to reflect on what happened 9/11.
Well, first we've got to think about the horrendous loss of lives that we had in those heroes of 9/11. That was the primary purpose behind it. But then to be able to find our love of trails and greenways and conservation, which is so important any day. And my gosh, have we seen it in COVID the last 2 years? It's really important to be outside and recreate and be able to enjoy that outdoors, but at the same time then be able to go along a trail for a day or for a week, whatever it happens to be, and realize the importance and the resilience of America in what happened on 9/11.
You mentioned Congressman Connolly and a few others. Talk about what does it mean? What does the federal designation mean now, and where do we go from here?
It means everything. By having the National Park Service as our partner, we'll be working on national signage for the project. It's although it's finished, we've got the route. 50% of it's off-road. We'll have signage. We'll be able to go all throughout the 6 states in the District of Columbia. There'll be partnerships as far as messaging. It really puts it at another stage, and we're just so delighted that the legislation passed.
Fantastic. And for all of our viewers that are wondering if they can go walk this trail or bike this trail, what are the ways that people can get out and get active? Where do they plug in?
Well, first of all, I just go on to 911trail.org, and you can see the entire map. You can check on any one section, be it the District of Columbia or Pennsylvania, New York, or Virginia, and see that part of the trail that you want to go on, and you're good to go from there. You really are.
Awesome. Well, we're good to go from here. David Brickley, thank you so much for joining us on District Life today.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Right next door to the Pentagon Memorial, D.C. is home to some of the country's most iconic monuments. But do D.C. residents know them by name?
DCTV's Carmen Stanley put their knowledge to the test in this segment of Where in the District.
Well, hello again. Welcome to another Where in the District today. As you can see, we're out here in Union Market District. Gonna ask the people some fantastic questions about some memorials, some monuments, see what the people know, see what people don't know. Let's see what we can get, see what we can have. I'm gonna go harass some people enjoying a lovely, lovely meal. Be right back. Give me 1 moment. So let's see if you know your monuments and memorials. What is this?
Jefferson, right?
It's not.
That is not the Jefferson, but it looks like the Jefferson. That is,
That looks like one side of the Jefferson, actually, but I'm not sure.
What is this? What memorial is
Thomas
this?
Jefferson.
This is not Thomas Jefferson.
It's not.
And if you look
No,
very
it's not
closely, right
Jefferson.
here, it has words on it.
District of Columbia.
Yeah.
This is going down along the river.
That, oh, I know that one. That's, thingy.
It must be the District of Columbia War Memorial. I don't know which.
It is.
Which war?
That's it.
That's the Washington Monument.
That is the Washington Monument. That's pretty easy.
The Washington Monument.
That is the Lincoln Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
The Lincoln.
Lincoln Memorial.
Boom.
Lincoln Memorial. You're not helping.
One of the Roosevelts.
Yes.
That's about as good as, I don't know which one had the dog.
The most famous one, I guess.
Oh, Teddy.
No.
Even I know that.
And the Roosevelt Memorial.
And his little dog that I don't remember the name.
That's all right, but he's there and we see him.
And that's World War II. No, World War I.
No.
No?
World War Vietnam.
A World War II memorial?
It was a war. It was a war.
Vietnam?
And the World War II. Oh no, this is Korean War.
Yes, it is. Wow. See what I married? Hold on. And
That's Martin Luther King.
boom.
Oh, that's MLK.
Boom.
The MLK memorial.
And MLK, of course. It's easy when the person's in the statue.
Right.
Again, another war one. I have no idea.
The Lee. This is the Lee House is right behind it.
The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Boom. Burn.
Sharifa, you're a biker, right?
Yes.
I'm sure you passed some of those monuments on your biking.
I have, and seeing them brings me pure joy. That's why I'm excited to introduce Asha, the woman in our latest Black Girl Magic segment, who also is finding joy in her life. Here's how some Black women are triumphantly attacking mental health challenges.
Hi, my name is Asha Taylor Welsh. I am 32 years old and I've lived in Maryland for most of my life. Man, growing up into a Black woman, starting from a girl, obviously, a young woman, there was a lot of challenges, but it was also a lot of fun. In elementary school, had a lot of different friends, a lot of people of color, and back then you didn't realize how lucky you were for that, because it was saturated with white people, and so I didn't know how lucky I was to have a Filipino friend and have a Hispanic friend and have another Black friend and still also have a white friend, and just having that variety of a clique really, I think, really helped shape me into wanting to learn more about the world. And then growing into a young woman, it just made me want to travel, but then also knowing and hearing about a lot of the stories that Black people faced, going to these other countries and the racism that they faced, it made me scared too. It made me pull back from wanting to travel, especially by myself. Being a Black woman is scary because we are taught to hide pain. We are taught and still taught that if something happens to us, nothing will be done about it, because there are so many of us missing from years ago. It's scary, and that's one of the things that does unfortunately keep me from traveling alone, because I know that if something were to happen to me, there's only so much that my parents and friends can do about it. Black girls are more likely to be molested and raped by someone in their household, or someone close to their household, and not talk about it. And it's sad, and I think that we're starting to break away from that. A lot more women are talking about being vulnerable and being open and going to therapy for past hurts. I'm always hopeful that we're coming out on the other side and coming out more resilient and stronger. And having weak moments doesn't make us completely weak or incredible or it doesn't discredit us whatsoever. And so I'm loving the change I'm seeing with that. How are Black women triumphant? How are we not? We win at everything we put our hand to, pretty much. Obviously, it's your own skill set and how you're wired, but I feel like once we put our mind to it, we win. And I think because it was embedded in us also to be losers, to be only a certain kind of person and only a certain stereotype that we had to adhere to because that was shown in the media, or that's how they wanted us portrayed, to keep us feeling insignificant and less than. We still rise above. It's always taught to us that we have to work 10 times harder to get half of what the rest of the world is getting. And so that in itself is embedded in us because of what we've been shown, what we've been taught, what has been perceived of us. So it's disheartening to want to thrive and want to be a part of something greater when you can be also noticed as a threat and be taken out at any time. We are already trying to knock things out of the park, and so we step up and we do every single time. A message I would love to get out to Black people is continue to explore who you are. You're never too old, never too young to say who you are, what you want, what you like, what you don't like. Demand respect for what you do or don't like. So many of us had the same childhood, even though some of us were nerdy or quirky or queer or whatever. We all had the same underlying childhood and some of the same experiences and traumas and things like that. And that's what kind of unites us. That line that traces us all and kind of connects us and brings us back to like, hey, you're like me. I actually can kind of learn from you. Continue to find out who you are and embrace it, love on it, respect it yourself, and then demand the same from others. And to also reach out and love, your Black counterparts. And also the biggest thing, I think, go to counseling. Seek counseling. I think we all have something, even if you weren't hurt as a young child. I think there are just so many things that are forced upon us, even through social media.
I think that we should continue to talk about this more in the future. Maybe next time even do a deeper dive.
Yeah.
Because mental health related issues are medical diseases that can be treated.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let's give each other some grace while we run this race.
Let's hold each other up, brother.
I'm gonna hold you up too. Come on. Right here.
And for you out there, make sure that you're taking care of your own mental health.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.